Councilman Segura, would you lead us in the prayer, please?
We ask that our dear Lord help us tonight to make the decisions that are necessary for the operation of our community, and that we make the decisions that are best for the well-being of the community and the safety of everybody, and wish everyone a continue in their prayers, any family members that need it. I know I haven't heard of any special intentions yet, but there may be some. And so, dear Lord, please take care of us in this deliberation. Thank you.
Councilman Carroll, would you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Teresa, special intention, I really like to say about coming up with I'll make it my
Yeah, where you at?
We're still kicking it around.
Okay.
Everybody's like, yeah, we want to go. I don't know.
Yeah, that's always the problem.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum this evening. Councilman McKinney is absent. In accordance with Council Resolution Number B14550, please be advised that all cellular telephones, pagers, beepers, and other devices of this nature must be deactivated or silenced throughout the council meeting. Do we have any motions, resolutions, or other items from the floor this evening? Seeing none, we move on to the consent agenda. Under the consent agenda this evening, we have item 1, approval of minutes, the council meeting of April 26th, 2019. Item 2 is approval of alcoholic beverage permit applications. We have none. Item 3 is approval of bingo and public gathering applications. Item 3A is application number 2161-19, Hammond's Transportation LLC, to hold a public gathering on May 18, 2019, from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. for the purpose of a company picnic at Veterans Park. Item 3B is application number 2164-19, Tanya Leal, to hold a public gathering on May 26, 2019, from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. for the purpose of a high school class reunion at Laketown. Item 4 is correspondence, reports from the mayor, CAO, or department heads. Item 4A, at the request of the administration, a report from Mayor Zahn.
Thank you, Council Clerk. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Council Chairman. Not too much to report tonight, just 2 code sweeps. Very important code sweeps that we did in District 1 with our Code Enforcement Department with the help of Councilman Carroll's office. 100 to 300 blocks of Duke, Clemson, and Emerson. We had 78 violations, 41 warning violations, and 8 court summons. Then, this was in the last 2 weeks. The Code Department went to the 600 to 900 blocks of Vouvray in Councilman Brannigan's office with the help of his office. We had 55 violations, 12 warning violations, and 4 court summons. Again, we continue these every week. We jump all around the city. The Code Enforcement Department is very proactive, which keeps our city clean. Obviously, sometimes the violations don't go down. Sometimes they go up. It all depends. It just depends on how much we are actually doing out there and what week we're actually catching them. So I feel very confident this will continue to get a little bit better with the help of James Muhammad and his men and ladies in the Code Enforcement Department. I know I probably pushed my button too late, but one last thing in special intentions. We have a longtime employee, Alice Baroni, who is currently going under some special procedures. We'll be doing that tomorrow. It is the mother. She's a longtime employee of the city of Kenner, but also it's the mother of Kevin Baroni, who runs the Pontchartrain Center. So our prayers are with the Baroni family. And for those of you all that do not know, but he's okay, but former Chief Zito, Fire Chief Zito, was almost electrocuted the other night. So he had some problems. He spent about 2 days in the hospital. We kept in touch with his son through myself and also our staff and the fire chief, and he is back at home and he is recovering. So he'll be fine, but let's just keep him in your prayers, and of course, that's one of your constituents, Councilman Brennan. So just these two people, employees, former employees, please keep them in your thoughts and prayers. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. That will conclude the consent agenda this evening.
We have a motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember McKinney. Councilman Wilmot. Council members, please vote.
Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Under the public appearance agenda, we have item 9, public hearings for final passage. We have none. Item 10 is opening bids. We have none. Item 11 is reclassification of zoning for final passage. We have none. Item 12 is other ordinances for final passage. We have none. Item 13 is resolutions and motions by council members. Item 13A is a resolution authorizing the administration to prepare and submit a pre-application to the statewide flood control program for assistance in the implementation of a project for the purpose of reducing existing flood damages and providing for the necessary documentation of said flood damages and for other related matters in connection therewith for the City of Kenner Department of Public Works.
We have a motion by Councilmember Seguier, seconded by Councilmember Brennan. Council members, please vote.
Two more. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 14 is items removed from the consent agenda. We have none. Item 15 is acceptance of contracts and similar matters approved by the mayor. Item 15A is summary ordinance number 12,522. An ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Thornville Services Incorporated to supply building materials on an as-needed basis in accordance with seal bid number 19-6473 and an amount not to exceed $50,000 annually for the Department of Public Works.
We have a motion by Councilmember Carroll, seconded by Councilmember Hayes. Council members, please vote.
Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 15B is summary ordinance number 12,523. An ordinance accepting the responsive bid received from Richard Reams Trophy Company LLC to supply sports awards in accordance with seal bid number 19-6468 and an amount not to exceed $15,694.05 for the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Just to clarify, $15,694.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Motion by Councilmember Seguier, seconded by Councilmember Brannigan. Council members, please vote.
Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 15C is summary ordinance number 12,524, an ordinance accepting the responsive bid received from Lamarck Ford Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $162,460.55 for the purchase of one F-550 regular cab chassis and VersaLift VST 47 aerial platform and 1,000 JIB winch in accordance with seal bid number 19-6472 for the Department of Public Works. Mr. Chairman, I've received a request from the administration to remove this item from the agenda this evening.
We have a motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember Seguier to remove the item. Council members, please vote.
Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 15D is summary ordinance number 12,525, an ordinance ratifying the policy and rates for the commercial property insurance for the City of Kenner for the policy year June 1st, 2019 through June 1st, 2020.
We have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, seconded by Councilmember Hayes. Council members, please vote.
I'm sorry, sir. Councilman Carroll had his light on.
I'm sorry. I looked and didn't see it when I looked back. Councilman Carroll, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before we vote on this, I wanted to give Ms. Foshee a chance just to address some of the changes. Is this the one? It's not the one. Okay, okay, the next one.
Sorry about that. Okay, next one, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 6-0. Item 15E is summary ordinance number 12,526, an ordinance ratifying the Blue Cross Blue Shield of Louisiana policy and rates for health insurance coverage for the City of Kenner employees, retirees, dependents for the fiscal year July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, as set forth in their proposals.
We have a motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot. Ms. Foshee, you have the floor.
Thank you. And this is the one, Councilman Carroll. Everyone should have in front of them either received it at the agenda meeting or received it when they got here tonight, a form that says Option 4, increased subsidy for dependent tiers with modest increase for employee-only coverage. We have with us tonight Kathy Beal from Nick Impastato's office. She'll be available for questions, but before we get there, I'm going to go over just some basics. In prior years, the city provided employee-only coverage. Last year, the employees were required to participate for $20, and the balance was paid by the city. Nothing was paid towards employees, nothing was paid for spouses, nothing was paid for family coverage. This year, as a result of the changes that we made to the program last year, we have savings which we can reinvest into our employees. So this year, for the first time, the city will be providing a subsidy for an employee and spouse plan. The city will subsidize that for $720.20. So the employee will be asked to pay 40%, the city will pay 60%. In the past, the employee paid 100%, the city paid 0%. With respect to employee and children, the employer subsidy, that's the city of Kenner, will pay $725.50, and the employee contribution will be $310. Again, the employee will be paying 30%. Previously, it was 100%. And finally, employee and family, which is basically employee, spouse, and children. The employer subsidy is $843.51, and the employee cost is $690.14. The employee will pay 45%. In the past, the employee paid 100%. When you see on your spreadsheet here, there's two bands across the top and across the bottom. The numbers I have given you are from the category called with screening. That's because the numbers are higher for the employees who choose to opt out of the free screening provided by the city. Last year, and Kathy may know, there were quite a number of employees who were unaware of medical conditions, and those conditions were caught early enough to be treated: heart conditions, diabetes, a number of opportunities there where we can help our employees become healthier sooner. However, you're not required to participate in the health screening. So if you do not, then your contribution, again, a very modest $100 towards the your health policy, with the city paying the balance, and the numbers are adjusted accordingly. So this information is about the health coverage. Just to let you know that as a result of the savings from the health coverage, we also have good news on life insurance, which is the next item on the list, but I'm going to leave that until that one comes up. But if you have any questions, Ms. Kathy Beal is here to answer those for you.
Thank you, Ms. Foshee. Councilman Carroll, you have the floor. Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Ms. Foshee, for getting me straight with the right one this time. But also thank you for coming today. And as it relates to children, is there a limit of children? Is it 1 to 4 or anything over 4? How does that work for children?
There's no limit to the number of children.
Okay. And if you can explain about the screening, what does it consist of? How soon you have to get it done? And do you have to sign any documentation or stuff like that? Because if you don't get the screening, it's going to cost you more money.
Correct.
And hopefully when we speak to the employees, we're able to explain to them, how important this is. So if you
Certainly.
can give us a little bit of information, I'll be fine.
Yes, sir. Because the employees will share in the cost of their premiums, whether they have screenings, it will be a lower amount than if they don't, for a higher amount. The screenings are performed prior to enrollment. So that way, before anybody enrolls in any type of coverage, they will know, the city will know these people had screenings, This is their cost share for their insurance. Or those who opt out, they will have a different cost share. When a person goes to have their screening, they are given a release to sign that basically states they understand that this is going to test. The blood that is drawn will be used to test for different illnesses or conditions that they may or may not be aware of. So there's a blood pressure reading, there's a finger prick that tests for A1C, diabetes, prediabetes, and if there are positive findings to any of those readings, the employee, the member, will be referred to a physician. And so they are not forced, obviously, to seek a physician's visit. However, they are encouraged. And this past year, as Ms. Foshee mentioned, this screening, which was new to the city, provided some situations where people may have been unaware of medical conditions that they had, and so they were referred to a physician, were able to be proactive in their health care choices that they were making. So we've been very happy that the plan for the employees and retirees for the city of Kenner has actually been a little bit more proactive in the past to make them a little bit more aware of the availability to utilize the services that the city's paying for them, and to generally improve the health status of the employees and retirees for the city.
And I'm a novice myself, but as far as it relates to the screening for and I'm going to assume the medical screening. Now, there are no screening for dental or vision. It's only, I mean, that's medical too, but it's only for the things that you mentioned.
The medical, the plans that are in place through Blue Cross do not provide dental or vision coverage in the aspect of going for dental or vision exams or cleanings or glasses. That is not covered by the health insurance plan. However, if a person were to have a medical condition with their vision or with their jaw, their teeth, that would be covered under the medical insurance.
Right, because, speaking of myself, I'm a diabetic. So when you are a diabetic, your eyes, your feet, podiatrists, and all of those things come into play where you have to go to the doctor and get checked, which are medical, but it slides into for vision, obviously, and for, for dental and all of that stuff. So
Yes.
that is something that if they do suffer from those conditions, the medical coverage and the screening will cover that also?
Yes, sir. If there is the medical cause because of say, for instance, the diabetes, as you mentioned, then that's covered under the medical plan.
Okay. And as far as the screening, there are literature, documentation given to the employees to express and to explain how important it is to get the screening, not only for that it's good to know, to preventive maintenance than corrective, but to know that from a financial standpoint, it will cost you less.
Yes, sir. And, the part of the benefits for the health insurance plan are wellness visits. So all the employees do have the opportunity to receive one free wellness visit through the policy year. And so that also encourages the members to participate in those activities for their health.
Thank you very much. Very important. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll. Ms. Foshee, do you have any other comments? All right. How about that? Any other questions? Mr. Morello?
For the young lady to yield the podium. You finished, ma'am? If you're not, I'll wait.
If we're going to talk about the next one.
We'll talk about
No.
what's on the agenda, yes, ma'am.
This
I got a
subject.
question,
Yes,
yes,
sir.
ma'am.
Thank you.
40-year veteran of these meetings. Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 47 years. This plan, this is the classified employees we talking about, or is this across the board for the unclassified employees as well? Or is there a separate plan for the unclassified employees?
Ms. Foshee will address that.
All
that?
employees.
All employees, okay. And the reason I asked that question was because several years ago, we had found out that several unclassified employees wasn't contributing anything, and we had people working for $8, $9 an hour was contributing, was paying for the insurance. So I just wanted to make sure that it was across the board, and it's still what we talked about in here several years ago. That's all I have. Anybody got any comments, any questions?
I do, Mr. Al.
Go ahead, young lady, you got the floor.
Thank you. Until last year, no employee paid anything. Last year was the first time an employee paid anything, and last year, employees who got the screening paid $20, and the employees who did not get the screening paid, I think, $70. Is that correct? Yes. So employees who did not get screening last year paid $70. Employees who did get screening paid $20, but prior to that, no employees, classified or otherwise, paid anything.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Foshee. I just wanted to make sure that it was across the board. Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Council members, please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Item 15F is summary ordinance number 12,527, an ordinance ratifying prudential policy and rates for life insurance coverage for the City of Kenner employees for the fiscal year July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, as set forth in their proposals.
We have a motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember Carroll. Seeing no discussion, council members, please.
I told him I'd talk about it.
Nothing was lit.
Okay,
We good?
council members?
Up.
I don't have any.
It won't work. She wants to speak.
May I
Oh,
speak,
oh.
please, even though my button doesn't work?
Hold on.
We'll have to vote on that.
There we go.
Ms. Foshee.
Okay, so some of the savings received from our health insurance premium reduction have gone into family health care, but some have also gone into the life insurance. Up until last year, the city provided at no cost to the employee a $15,000 policy per employee across the board. Every employee got $15,000. This funds, some of these funds have been put into a policy more akin to what happens at Jefferson Parish and other municipalities. We are providing life insurance in the amount of 1.5 times salary with a cap of $300, and it's for active employees. So many employees will pay extra when we do our voluntary benefits. Our supplemental benefits will pay extra to get actual life insurance, so there'll be a savings to those employees who have been paying to buy additional life insurance up to that amount. You'll still be able to buy insurance above that amount, but at no cost to the employees, the city will be providing 1.5 times salary as a life benefit.
Thank you, Ms. Foshee. Seeing no other discussion, council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Item 16 is ordinances and resolutions in summary for first reading. Item 16A is an ordinance adopting the operating budget for the City of Kenner for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019, and ending June 30th, 2020, and providing for related matters. Item 16B is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Lytle Enterprises of Ohio, LLC, to supply sign poles, brackets, and miscellaneous sign supplies on an as-needed basis in accordance with seal bid number 19-6476, and an amount not to exceed $30,000 annually for the Department of Public Works. Item 16C is an ordinance approving an agreement with Hahn Enterprises Incorporated to remove and replace Little Tykes play equipment at Green Lawn Tot Lot in an amount not to exceed $13,296,000 for the Department of Parks and Recreation. Item 16D is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Allstate Window and Siding Company to remove and replace windows at the Hispanic Resource Center for the City of Kenner in the amount of $5,215 $100,000 in accordance with telephone bid number T19-2956 for the Community Development Department. Item 16E is an ordinance accepting the responsive base bid received from BLD Services LLC in the amount of $619,040 for the Kenner Hansen City Sewer Lift Station improvements for LS 4103 Firehouse Road Sewer Force Main Replacement Project in accordance with seal bid number 19-6471 for the Department of Public Works. Item 16F is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Kenworth of South Louisiana LLC in an amount not to exceed $348,260 for the purchase of one combination sewer cleaner vacuum truck in accordance with seal bid number 19-6474 for the Department of Public Works. Item 16G is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from New Light Electrical Wholesalers to supply street light poles and accessories in accordance with seal bid number 19-6480 in an amount not to exceed $150,000 annually for the Department of Public Works. Item 17 is reports from the council and our special committees.
Councilman Brannigan, you have the floor.
Just wanted to make everyone aware that I ran an ad in the Kenner Star for Put Kenner First plan, and basically we're asking our residents to spend money in Kenner instead of outside of our city. If half of our residents that live in the city of Kenner spend $100 that they're spending now, I don't want you to spend an extra $100. Things are tight for some people. And bottom line is, if we spend $100 a month that we spend it outside of the city, it can generate over $1 million of sales tax revenue. The other thing that it does is when you're trying to attract businesses to our city, when you can show sales tax growth, it's a feature that a lot of businesses look at, besides foot traffic and car traffic in different locations. But I believe that if we put Kenner first and we can achieve our sales tax collections going up, it would entice businesses to move here. Just trying to think out of the box and get some more sales tax in for the city of Kenner. If anyone has any questions, my cell phone number is in that ad. Please feel free to call me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Segura, you have the floor.
Just wanted to start the announcement publicly. There'll be some newspaper and social media going out tomorrow. But on May the 20th, the City Council will hold a special council meeting at 5:30. And the purpose of that meeting is to hear comments on pending legislation of short-term rentals that are taking place here in the city. So we have drafted legislation, and before we get it on the agenda, though, we will entertain comments on that on May 20th at 5:30. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Segura. Councilman Carroll?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the General Service Department, specifically we have started the season, the month of May, for Music in the Park and Movies in the Park. And last Friday, the attendance, the music, the ambiance, the food, everything was fantastic. It had, I forget the numbers, but I believe it was over 1,000 people that attended. And it only happens that way because people are comfortable in coming in the area. They are comfortable with the product. They are comfortable with the maintenance of the facility when people come out. They feel safe and secure for the policemen, the firemen, the EMS, all of that. So hopefully this Friday, the weather cooperates, say a prayer tonight, and we can enjoy more entertainment, more good food. Even had crawfish the first time I've noticed that. So if you're not doing anything after 5 p.m. tomorrow and the weather's good, please come out to Rivertown Heritage Park for Music in the Park. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. And on just another note, since Sunday is Mother's Day, we'd like, as the council and the administration, to wish all the mothers here and watching on TV that would see this in the future a very happy Mother's Day. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Item 18 is new business. We have none. Item 19 is unfinished business and are motions to reconsider or remove from a tabled position. We have none. Item 20 is persons wishing to address the council on special subject matters.
Thank you. Mark E. Dietrich, please state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes, please.
Good evening. My name is Mark E. Dietrich. I live at 3401 East Loyola. I have been a resident of Kenner since 1964. I am one of 4 generations that have either lived or currently live in the city. I grew up about 4 blocks away from here on Iowa. The reason I'm here is the mayor's little tirade about the, best way to say it is the keyboard commandos. Sir, I am one of them. And when I put my name, when I put things on Facebook or Backpage, my name is on them. I'm not hiding behind a keyboard. And for you to call us out like that is actually uncalled for a man in your stature and also in your office. If you have big plans for things, why don't you communicate them to us? You obviously like to talk about every little store opening and closing and such, and also weather reports. Hell, a little blurb saying, hey, what we're going to do at the park is this, this, and this. That would have solved a whole lot of problems. Thank you very much. And Mr. Wilmot, thank you for voting against the car lot.
Thank you. Mr. Almarella?
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 47 years. I want to respond to some comments that was made near the adjournment of the last council meeting. Councilman Wilmot stated that he was told about asking too many questions or something about the questions that he asked up there. So let me just say this. All 7 of you council people up there, y'all work for me and the people of Kenner. Nobody up there works for any of their colleagues. You work for us. Since I'm your employer, Councilman Wilmot, and I say this to the other 6, you ask as many questions as you need to ask until you get a straight answer or you get the truth. And y'all don't work for the administration neither. The administration is the mayor is my employee as well. I want and encourage all of you to ask questions. The mayor has no vote, but he can certainly question items that's on the agenda to be voted on by this council, even though he has no vote. So I welcome him to ask questions on anything he may have some concerns over. Now, I want to direct this to the mayor. Didn't read the whole article, but I understand you put together a community development committee. And I'd like to know how many meetings they've had and how long have they been in existence.
Economic development.
Yes, sir. Economic development.
Right.
Yes, sir. Mhm.
You say community development, so I was just clarifying.
Okay.
Economic development.
Okay.
All right.
How many meetings have they had, Mayor, and how long have they been in existence?
They've had 1 executive meeting. They've had 1 general meeting, probably since about after the council and the chief got back to me, March of this year. I'm sorry, March or April of last year. Not in total existence, just coming together. A working committee to get to that point. The first meeting, I think, was the beginning of this year, is the executive board, and then they had their general meeting, which was open to the public. It was at the pavilion. I think they had that back in March, somewhere in March.
And they haven't had a meeting since?
They haven't had a membership meeting like that, but we are meeting with them. They are meeting with the economic development coordinator, a consultant. They are doing some things internally. They don't have to actually meet to get things done. They're still formulating some things, but we'll be glad to let you know when the next meeting is.
Yeah, I'd like to know when the next meeting is, because I think the public should be involved in anything they have to say, and they should attend those public meetings. The public should attend those meetings.
Yes, and they, just so you know, they were invited to the last one. It was advertised, and not advertised to the paper, but put out social media. And public did attend, some public did attend, some residents.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mayor. Anybody else got any comments, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you.
Pastor Cockingham?
Good evening, Pastor Jacqueline Brown Cockerham, 2610 Decatur Street, Apartment A. And I'm just going to say thank you, Mayor Zahn. The temporary wall was being removed earlier this morning when I was at home, so I appreciate that. There is still debris in the canal, however, and hopefully they'll clean it out over on Decatur Street. Yes, hopefully they'll clean it, clean the canal and remove some of the other material. I think the posts were still there, but other than that, I got a view. But I would like to know if the city of Kenner, along with New Orleans, will have anything to do with extending that sound wall, because the neighbors on Decatur Street will hear it. It stopped right at Decatur and the canal. But beyond that, when that traffic, those 7 or 8 lanes of traffic are flowing, will there be a wall to eliminate some of that, that sound?
Yep, for the canal comment, we'll get the parish out there. You know, canals are controlled predominantly by the parish, so we'll contact Councilman Spears' office for that, and code will be on that, and we will check with our aviation board member to see what we can do
Okay,
on the wall.
all righty, thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Mr. Greg Teft?
My name is Greg Teft. I live at 3720 West Loyola Drive. Just got a couple things I want to ask. This would go to the mayor, or maybe the district councilman, or the councilman for the district, I think it's four, I think. About the boat launch, where are we at on getting that repaired? The launches itself. 'Cause I know last year we talked about it, where we fixed the one close to that little pavilion, or whatever it is, but we still have the other boat issues.
I'd like to call, if you don't mind, you have other questions too? Because we get.
Yes.
All right.
The other thing, and this is probably more for the city attorney, hate to put it on you, and I'm going to duck. I'd like to know what the difference is in a luxury residential condominium versus apartments.
Well, I mean, a condominium is typically governed by documents that make it a condominium association. So, and I'm not well-versed in, laws governing condominium associations, but, I mean, apartments are not condos. Condos have boards that, basically govern them, and bylaws that govern, the renovations or repairs to, like common areas like roofs, walls, things like that.
Now, are those purchased by the people that's living in them, or are they rented by the people that's living in them? Can they be, or can they be both?
I mean, I think a condominium can be owned by one person and rented to someone, yes. And I think that's a lot of the situation in Kenner is condominiums are owned, privately owned, and then they.
But if the private owner is the one that's renting, not like a development.
Right, and if that's allowed in the bylaws, it's allowed, so.
Okay, because I wanted to know what the difference was, because in something that was done in 85, I believe, that luxury condominium is allowed in an area.
Many of the apartments, Mr. Teff, in Kenner became condominiums, yes.
So, and I wanted to make sure what the difference was, because this tells me that it has to be rezoned if they go to do something, because it's not zoned for apartments.
Yeah, I think that would be a planning question, yes.
So, as I understand, I believe you're referring to the property south of Kenner Discovery School?
Yes. And
That is
I'm referring
governed-
also to the PUD 4-82. That was done in 1982.
Correct. That governs most of the property, particularly south of the school. There's one parcel E that is owned by the city, and then parcel D-1, I believe, and another parcel. Those are governed still by the original special ordinance. It allowed a hospital, it allowed clinics, commercial shopping. The only residential that was allowed, according to that PUD, was luxury condominiums.
Right.
So in order for anyone to put any type of residential there that is not luxury condominiums, and unfortunately, I was trying to find trying to grab a copy of the UDC on my phone, but I believe we have a definition for condominiums, and I can send that to you tomorrow morning,
That would be
which would
good, 'cause-
define like what we determine as a condominium.
Yeah, I've been in
And I believe it's owner-occupied, separate units that are sold and governed by, as the city attorney said, a condominium association. So the owners of the condos don't have to pay, they pay a condo fee, which goes to pay for insurance, and et cetera. And then everything that they have on the inside, on the walls, they have to insure themselves. But if you're talking about that property, that is, according to the PUD, the only residential that is currently allowed on that site is luxury condominiums.
So is Lake Chateau considered a condominium or
I
apartments?
don't know.
Those are apartments. Okay. So then I'm going to assume that it's got to go to be rezoned if they want to put apartments there.
Well, they have to amend the PUD to allow something besides luxury condominiums. That's the only residential mentioned in that PUD.
Y'all have answered my question. That makes it easy. And then the last comment I want to make, again, goes back to transparency. Sometimes we don't get information out, like a public sounder would do. I mean, we get some information out, because we do talk about the weather and the special events that's coming up. But all I'm asking is, sometimes when it comes to legislative issues, we never hear about them until we see the agenda. And sometimes we need to know a little bit more about it, then we don't get all, when you don't know something, you always expect the worst, or anticipate the worst. And I'm just saying, it could cut out some of the stuff that goes around with it. And that's all the comments I have.
Thank you, Mr. Taft.
And I'm waiting on the mayor. My boat launch.
I apologize, I forgot about that. Mr. Pitfield's going to come up and answer those questions.
So yes, the boat launch is one of those facilities that we have been working on. There's no doubt that there's many facilities in the city that were neglected for many, many years. We currently have 5 of the 8 slips open. The reason that those last 3 slips are closed is, quite frankly, people in their recreational boats were destroying them. The concrete is missing, so I had several callers, and we actually went out there and waded down into the water. There are chunks of concrete on the ramps, on the slope ramps, that are missing. So we were trying to keep people from damaging their prized possessions, their recreational boats and trailers. So that's why those are closed. The questioning on when it's going to get done, I'd love for it to be done already. It runs about $100,000 per boat slip. It's going to require us to dam off the entire area, shut down the entire boat launch. The summer months approaching is not the time to do that. I am working still with the Office of Coastal Management and the Army Corps of Engineers to get that area dredged. It's a much harder process than one would even want to imagine. It's not easy dealing with the water bottoms of Lake Pontchartrain. So we are still in the process of working on the dredging. It is, I would love to have the boat launch at 100%. Quite frankly, the funds aren't there right now, so we're doing our best to protect the interest, the personal property of people and not destroy their boats going down the ramp. So we have 5 of 8 that are available. Well, I'll tell you, I spent a lot of time out at Lake Town. It's rare that I see 5 boats at a time launching, and people are waiting to launch the boats. I think we have adequate space available for our recreational boaters at this time, but again, we're not going to give up on it.
Thank you, Mr. Bitfield. Thank you, Mrs. Taft. Mr. Brown?
Mr. President, the sign-in sheet had been taken up when I walked in, so I was not able to sign in. Richard Brown, 824 Sessions Lane, Kenner. It's hard for me to say some of the things I want to say here because it concerns people who I personally like and consider friends and who I respect. But it has to do with the issue that Marky Dietrich addressed with the comments that were on a Facebook page, on the We're from Kennebra page, and I think maybe some others, by a group of people complaining about the fact that the Christmas decorations at Kenner City Park still had not been taken down. The Christmas tree was still up. Extension cords were hanging down from the trees. The huts that we used for the concessions were still there. And I did not join in with those complaints, but I read them all. And was the tone of some of the complaints was perhaps a bit harsh, but what really stunned me was the tone of the response from a couple of city employees, which I thought was very disrespectful to people who are citizens of Kenner who had a legitimate concern about why 4 months after Christmas is all that stuff still there. And some of it appeared to be dangerous. It turned out the huts were not even locked, the doors were not secured. Vagrants, anybody could go in there and sleep in the huts or do whatever they wanted to, could abduct children to go in there. It really was kind of a bad situation. The mayor's personal assistant and the director of code enforcement, both of whom I like very much personally, and both of whom have usually been very helpful in their posts on that page, got very defensive and said, we have not removed the huts or the tree or anything else because it's been too wet. We're waiting for dry weather. That excuse did not go over well among the people on that page. And if you want to consider me one of those keyboard commandos, do so, but I post under my name, and I don't think I ever posted in those threads. I just read them. But the statement given repeatedly by the mayor's assistant and the director of Parks and Recreation was that we will remove everything as soon as the ground is dry enough. We can't move the huts because it's too wet. Then a few days later at the council meeting, the mayor says, as he's criticizing the people on that Facebook page, says, what those people don't know is that we're not moving the huts. The city is leaving the huts there. Now, something's wrong somewhere. I don't know when that decision was made, but we had the director of Parks and Recreation either didn't know what was going on or was misleading us about what was going on, and the mayor saying, oh no, the huts are staying, we're not taking them down. I find the whole episode just disheartening, and I hope we can move forward. I hope the mayor and his assistants will begin posting on that page again. It has about 10,000 followers, the vast majority of whom are Kenner residents. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. The mayor is asking to reply. Mayor?
Yeah, I think the timeline's a little off, Richard. Not saying that some of those things did not appear on there, but the huts were secured. You're going back to another Facebook post. Before that, the huts had already been secured. They had been secured numerous times. They were secured in a better format before I made those comments here. And look, it's a long, lengthy discussion, but the things that are being said, I don't know what my assistant said. I don't look at all that. I just hear about it. But the huts were secured and the huts were always going to stay. Maybe you're going back to a previous post on that, because I do remember something a while back, not within the last 2 weeks, since the last council meeting, on the huts not being, being removed. But we have been talking for quite a while about the huts staying and trying to reach out to some civic groups to see if they'd be interested in doing different things. So I don't know what the Director of Recreation posted within the last 2 weeks. Maybe that was a previous post about some people complaining the huts were not secured. I don't know. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I think we're dealing with too much social media on this issue because, Richard, you know, if you text me, what happens?
Exactly.
Right.
If I had had a complaint about it, I would have called you or texted you.
And I appreciate you going out there. My understanding is, you can clarify this or not, you went out there, I was told that you actually looked at everything and said, basically, I'm paraphrasing, is this what the big deal's about? And you turned around and walked away. So
Yeah, I think it was-
I appreciate your support on that.
I think Monday, a week ago, I may be off on the date, but I had been in Baton Rouge at the legislature. On the way back, I decided to ride by City Park to see it for myself because I had not seen any of this for myself. And Chad Pitfield himself was up in a bucket truck taking down the lights
So
on the Christmas
obviously,
tree.
you see that, the tree weighs a good bit. It's hard to get the tree out of there. And I thought I made myself clear at the last council meeting, and I see that you realize that. And we went back out again and undid some other things. The lights on the building, we were going to leave, but someone went back out there again and complained about that. The media called us, and I said, you know what? Just go ahead and take the lights off the building. The reason we were going to leave the lights on the building, though, for the public to know, is most people that rent the pavilion, the building, for weddings or baby showers, they like it lit up. Well, now it's not anymore. We went ahead and took those off. So, we get to a point where it's like, okay, we'll just go ahead and do that too. So I'm not saying that there haven't been things that have not been that needed to be addressed that we were not addressing. We went out there a third time probably and addressed more of it. I think it's probably very close to perfect right now because there are no exposed wires. The wires that are exposed, according to our electrician, are insulated. So we went just abundance of caution, which you've probably seen. Chad Pitfield himself went out there and put green fencing around it until we actually put real fence around it. We don't think it's exposed wiring because our expert tells us that it's not. So I just would rather these things through discussions.
I understand. And the day that I was out there, the wires had already been taken down and were neatly coiled. But the comments that were made about we can't remove the huts because it's too wet, that was made just a few days before the council meeting in which you said, we're not moving the huts. So there was some miscommunication somewhere. I don't know how it happened, but there was some miscommunication.
Miscommunication or aggravation on the fact that we're getting to it as quickly as we can, and sometimes, just like obviously you all mistype, sometimes one of my directors might mistype. I don't know. I have not seen that. So there's been a discussion for a long time, just so you know, to leave the huts to actually generate some revenue.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next, name and address for the record, please.
Saley Molina, District 5, resident and the lead administrator of the We Are Kennerborough Group. The We Are Kennerborough Group is a community Facebook group that hosts over 9,000 members. More than half of those members are residents of Kenner, and the other half that claims the metro area. Most of them, for logistical reasons, claim the metro area, but most of them also do live in Kenner. And the ones that don't, they vote, they purchase, they visit us, they work here, and they should not be marginalized. Social media allows the ethical issues to go viral to the extent and the distance and the speed are phenomenal. The consequences of a factual mistake or an ethical lapse are far greater consequences, but the same principles still apply. The principles of telling the truth and knowing who you are representing, who is affected, who is benefited, and who is harmed, all of those balancing tests go into ethical decisions. Those have not changed. There's a bigger audience. With a bigger audience, more things can go wrong. On the other hand, there are a lot of ethical positives that can come from these new tools. You have now enlarged the conversation. You have reached more people, and more people can engage. There is a greater range of views that can be seen and heard through an effective use of social media, and that is a good thing, particularly from a government perspective, where you govern with the consent of the people, and that is a fundamental to American democracy, and the consent of the people is based on an informed populace. If social media allows for a greater range of thoughtful engagement, that's good. But there are some qualifiers. Thoughtful engagement means that people are doing their homework, they are respectful. And I think that as a government host, you have a responsibility to encourage that thoughtful, informed conversation. And you can do that by policy or by requirement. And when I started that Facebook page, my intentions were to group together my friends and neighbors in Kenner to serve as a source of information for each other, to network our services. I never expected it to turn into what it turned into, and I never expected to be in the position that I'm in, which is way above my head many times, which is the ear and the voice of the people of Kenner. As a city neglected to treat its residents and constituents with respect and dignity, they naturally looked to the internet and fell upon the group. I've done my best to listen and address the issues that in all honesty should be addressed by this council or this administration. The group moderators customarily tag and inform the city officials that are a part of the membership to advise them and allow them the opportunity to address the concerns as well as reach their constituents at no cost to the city. Some of you have even used it to reach the constituents during election cycles. You answered questions and concerns and earned the vote of many members. The group administration moderated all of those conversations and ensured that a fair opportunity was given to everyone that used it. How this administration chose to use it is not the fault of the group, its administration, its members, or social media. That park post was posted 3 times before I addressed the residents. The reason that I didn't call you, sir, was because as your assistant of code enforcement clearly told me, I'm not special, and I never assumed that I was special. So I didn't think that the proper protocol would be for me, who am I, to call the mayor and tell him something that I knew that his administration was well aware of and that they had already advised us of the reasons why they
Ms.
had not
Molina,
been removed.
Your time's up. Please wrap it up.
Okay. My concerns were not the Christmas decorations, but the dangers. My grandchildren play at that park, and I can clearly see the live exposed wires with the hanging things, and the kids were playing on them. It wasn't that the tree wasn't taken down. It was that I was afraid that a child would be hurt, and I was trying to advise the residents, and my post was directed at the general public, not you, sir. I would have called had I thought that that would have made a difference.
Thank you. Mayor?
Saley, just like I just told Richard, you have my cell phone number. My cell phone number is, texting me is the best way to get in touch with me. Have I ever not responded to one of your texts?
No, but I also don't.
I'm just wondering, have I ever not responded?
There's a misconception on social media that I call you for little things. Well, no, because you said it in the meeting, that I would call you for little things, but I really haven't. I've made 2 calls that I thought were important to me, one to you regarding the Wentwood Booster Club, which I have yet to really get any kind of response on. The second was to my councilman, Mr. Brennan, which was in concern of the UCCA, and you had said that you would get back to me, that you would talk to legal and get back to me. You also said that you would talk to legal and get back to me. I did speak to you, Ms. Lee Roussel, a few months ago in regards to the Booster Club, but I haven't heard anything back from that. I don't know what's happening with that. And with the UCCA, I haven't heard anything back from that either. And it's like, I really don't, maybe we're clearing it up, but I really didn't feel special, like Ms. Molly made clear, for me to say, hey, I'm going to call the mayor and I'm going to tell him that there's stuff at the park. I knew that you knew. I knew that your assistant knew. What I was trying to do was tell the people, hey, people, there's dangers out there. Watch your kids. Because it wasn't just the city. It was people leaving their children unattended. It was people allowing their children to play with toys on top of the drainage. They were vandalizing the park. They were causing dangers too. So my address was directed at the residents of Kenner, not at the administration. I knew that the administration already knew what they had to do and were putting in place the things that they had to do to get it done. So that's...
Was that in the post?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In the commentary in the post, absolutely.
No. Was that in the post when you posted it?
Absolutely.
I don't remember seeing that, but...
No, absolutely.
Getting more information from me would probably be the best way to do that, looking forward. I don't think I don't think I ever, when you said directed something at you, I don't think I even called you by name or said he or she at the last council meeting, did I?
No, but there were enough, there were
I mean,
enough of reference points for me
Right,
to know,
but
for me to take it personally.
But obviously, you're telling me you respected me enough to post it the way you did. I guess I didn't see it that way. Obviously, I hope you see that I respected you enough not to say she.
No.
So maybe at this point, we can both move forward on it. But when you look at something like that on social media and we don't have an opportunity to explain ourselves, this is where I explain myself. That was the same day, which I said last council meeting, that a swan was killed. That was a little bit more important probably to us to address immediately. We immediately after that, though, got out there and started addressing. We were hoping the ground was dry because it could have rained again, but we were dry enough, I guess, to get what we needed to get out of there. Up until that point, we had had a lot of rain. So, look, someone said keyboard commandos. That's actually not what I said, but that's okay. They're taking my words and changing it. This is where we're going to address these things. I'd spoken to Councilman Brennan that day. I'd explained to Councilman Brennan what was going on. Councilman Brennan understood where we were. I didn't share it with the rest of the council. I might have spoken to Councilman McKinney. I don't remember. But we got out there. We did it. We got it done. I would much rather you just give me a phone call or text, and I'll be able to explain to you in the future what we're doing. And
I can absolutely understand that.
Someone else.
We had communication with Michelle, so I felt it inappropriate to go over her head.
You've never felt that way?
Mr. Mayor, may I make a comment?
Yeah.
Please.
Everyone on this council and the administration, whether it's believed or not, is for transparency. There are some things that may be in line that we're getting prices on, estimates, ideas that may seem like a good idea. It may not happen because of the funds that are available in different things. So we can't always say, oh, this is why this is not being done, but this is what we're hoping to do, because it may not come. We can't build up hope for people to take the rug back out under their feet. I'm talking about the Christmas Village stuff. There are plans for some things we want to do with that, but it comes with a cost. If the money's not going to be available, once we get estimates, once we get the idea in place, it may not come to be. Those may get taken down in 90 days because of that. But we can't just say, oh, by the way, we're thinking about doing this, and then, because then it has the possibility to be a bunch of endless ideas. And until something is firm, it may not be discussed with anybody but the administration and the at-large council persons, people, and the council person itself. So it's not anybody trying to not do something. Just sometimes it just takes time, and obviously it takes money.
And that's understood. That's understood, and that's why I thought that the phone call I made to you was so important regarding the University City Civic Association, because that's one way for you, my councilman, to reach, the University City, but there's just no communication. There's a breakdown as well as with the Booster Club, so it's just like, well, how do we find out? How do we know? How are we engaged? How can we engage?
But I had the conversation with Mr. Brown in a meeting a few weeks ago, and what the mayor said to you, I did a mail out to my district that just hit the streets the other day. Mm-hmm. In that it's 4,500 pieces of mail, and there were 4,500 cards in there that have my name, my cell phone number, the office number, and it had a card for the office assistant. Yes, things fall through the cracks. We try to keep up with every call. I try to answer every call I get. And if I get an email, whether it's at 10:30 at night, it's on the weekends, I try to respond as quickly as I can. I've responded to things on a Saturday, and by Monday, I have forgotten to tell Allison something that needs to be done, and she's in on all of those, so she's behind me picking those up. There are some times where things fall through the cracks. I would rather you call with the simplest question, whether it's a garbage can wheel or whether it's a light pole that's fallen over on some major thoroughfare. We will take your call, and we will respond and do the best that we can.
Thank you, and I appreciate that acknowledgement. I think that's really all we needed.
And Saley, you know, when you used to text me quite often, I would tell you, kind of like what Councilman Brannigan's just saying.
Brennan.
Look, we're working on this.
Brennan.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Zan.
Y'all,
Mayor Zan.
y'all look nothing alike, but y'all almost the same age, I guess. What Councilman Brennan's saying is that when we put stuff out there, we tell you, look, I used to tell you, look, you can go ahead and post this, but please don't post this because, like he's saying, we want to give a false hope. So maybe if you got back to that with us, it would be a lot more constructive. So when we do our jobs. We're not saying pat us on the back. We're just saying when we're doing our jobs, and this city has got to see, we see it when we go out there, that people are happy with what's going on. You don't have the fighting. You don't have these long, non-productive council meetings. You have council meetings that are getting done. You have people, council people now, that are literally going out there and physically doing things themselves to get it done. Councilman Brannigan, this is where we get discouraged. Councilman Brannigan puts out an ad out of your own pocket in the Kenner store. He gets criticized for it. That's okay. We big girls.
That was another group,
big
though.
boys and big girl. But he gets criticized for it out of his own pocket. It's to make money for the city of Kenner. It's a little discouraging. It's a little discouraging when you read something on your post that says basically the way we take it, oh God, what's wrong with this administration, this councilman? Why can't they get these things down? Well, we've been living here all since January, mid-January, it would probably come down. The rain continues. So we're working on it. I mean, the back chat is a little bit too much, by the way. We've been working on it, but looking for that right time. I would ask you to continue to reach out to me. My door is not closed to you. I did not call you out by name. Y'all are making yourselves the guilty ones, not me. Y'all, I know, but and it's fine. I think this is healthy, but I mean, I never said Saley Molina or I never said she. So it is what it is. I mean, when you sit here and you have to, and they sit there, and we're all trying to work for the better of Kenner, which is what we're paid for, which is why we're elected, it is discouraging when a councilman puts a little money out of his own pocket and gets beat up for it. So, you know what? The comment kind of still stands. It's the people that sit behind, I didn't say you were, but certain people sit behind their keyboard and continue to just type away. This is the first time, obviously, that some got irritated. Well, you know what? Look what's come from this. So if you want to move forward, I'm willing to move forward. I'm not apologizing for what I said. I'm not going back on what I said. I stand behind it if we continue to get attacked, because it's still attacks. When people are doing what they're doing now, it's discouraging. And I think I speak, tell me if I'm wrong, I think I speak for every elected official in the city of Kenner for what I just said. If I don't, y'all have the right. You got 7 people up there. You can disagree with me, but it's discouraging because we've all had those conversations.
Let's move forward and give the floor to Councilman Brannigan. Thank you, Ms. Molina.
Thank you.
Bottom line is, Saley.
That's fine.
Bottom line is, somebody's. Communication is the beast, and sometimes communication lines get clouded up, and we need to make sure that communication lines are open. I'm not saying anybody made a mistake with that, but the other thing is when you get keyboard messages or text messages, sometimes the word and you don't know what context they're in. Person could have been having a bad day. You really don't know. I really believe that all 7 of us up here, if you have a problem and you want to text any of us, we will get it to the right place. I get, I had someone in District 5 asking, who's a resident of District 4, asking me about some bushes that were overgrown. I went and rode by and called Brian, told him, look, this lady said these bushes need to be cut. And so we all work together. And I believe that, it's a good position for us to be in, to be able to look at different things and just advise each council member, if there's an issue in their district that someone makes them aware of. But communication's it, and the bottom line is, we just need to make sure our lines of communication open, and I think that they are, okay?
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Pitfield?
Sure, I'd like to come up as a resident because, well, first off, Chad Pitfield, number 6 Macomb Court in Kenner. A lot of people like to think because I am a director here in the city that I guess I'm not a citizen. I lose all those rights as a citizen as well. So the Facebook page that I have is my personal Facebook page that has been for about 6 years. I've been here for the city of Kenner. May 1st made a year. It seems like it's been a lot longer than that. So that is my personal page. I decided to get on this Kenner group page when I took this job in Kenner so I could try to see what some of the issues were. When I first did, it was Kenner City Park again. It was the double slide that everybody was up in arms about. It had duct tape on it. Well, guess what? We went right to work. I went with Ms. Kelly Han and Councilman Brennan. I'm about to say Brannigan again. Sorry.
If it's a
Thank you.
complaint, it's Brandon.
Thank you.
If
So we got that fixed. So again, for me as a citizen and for me to better do my job, it was to join that group and see what the citizens, throughout the city were complaining about. That's basically what this page is, a complaint page. So as this progressed, look, I'm going to tell you, in the last year, I got more and more frustrated, constantly reading complaints. To take it a step further, we had a New Orleans resident, a Kenner businessman, who donated a personal pair of swans. Look, there's many bodies of water through our area. He donated them to the city of Kenner to put in Kenner City Park. Phenomenal. Great idea. We loved it. As a matter of fact, I go out there with another person who's in this audience on a daily basis and hand feed those birds. That is my relief, and that is what we're giving back to the city, is for opportunity for children and families to come out to Kenner City Park, see these beautiful swans, see the other birds around. We're starting to do some education stuff out there. But, we make this post about we have these beautiful swans that are coming that were donated by somebody, and then we start getting attacked about why we don't protect the rest of the birds, why we don't have enough duck crossing signs on Loyola and Vintage. Come on, people. I mean, that's just ridiculous. As a citizen of Kenner, I'm embarrassed. And I will tell you that I got off of that page as a resident of Kenner. I absolutely will not be rejoining it, nor will anybody else in my family. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, would you, it's fine. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
How you doing? Alan Molina, resident 3629 Louisiana State Drive. Just over here, Mayor Ben, saying about the trees, it was raining and all that. All right, we understand that. But what I'm saying, my question is, what about the residents that got code enforcement on them during the same time that they had to get their stuff done during the same time that we couldn't get everything done at the park because of the rain? I mean, they got cited, just like you're saying, hey, there's funds. We don't know if they're going to get how much it's going to cost. So does the Kenner residents going through the same thing. But they have to get things done at a certain time. So I think the community more is saying, hey, you're kind of forgetting that we're people too, just like you guys are saying, hey, we're people too. Mr. Mayor Ben just said, hey, we big girls and big boys here. We all knew who you meant, man, when you said, hey, hiding behind the keyboard. I'm a grown man, so I knew what you were saying. Another thing is that I think the community feels like you guys kind of lost the sense of you guys used to be us on this end. I have a story way back, right before Katrina. I was in a real bad bind. I was doing pretty bad income. And it was my wife's anniversary, and I didn't have no money to be able to get her anything. And I reached out to this community member, because I didn't have Facebook at that time. There was no Kennerbrook group to reach out how the community is using it now. This person said, man, look, don't worry about it. Come see me at 5:30, come pick something up, and you give it to your wife. I picked up, it was kind of purple and bluish, flower. It was a what is it? Orchid. And you know who that was? That was you, Mr. Ben. And when I found out that you were running for mayor, look, when you're running for mayor, I was like, man, I know this guy. He's very humble. You know, I know his family. I remember you guys like tea. I used to be their waiter at the Chester Country Club. And I was like, babe, you know, we're gonna vote for this guy. You know, and I think, man, I know you have a heart in there, and I think the community just feeling like, dude, you're just kind of worried about lining the pockets a little bit. But I know you have a heart in there, man, and, you know, lining the pockets, like the dealerships, and it's not worried about the community. We kind of being left out. I think that's what the community is feeling right now. You know what I mean? That's what it's all about. But I definitely, man, I appreciate that, Orchid. You know, I appreciate your service. But again, like you said, we are big boys and big girls here, and we just kind of feel left out. You know, I feel like you guys are just forgetting about the community a little bit. And then, but man, yeah, that's it. And the thing, I mean, if you guys expect us to give you guys time to pick up what y'all gotta pick up, give the community time to pick up their trees and stuff like that due to bad weather as well, too. All right, so just thank you. That's it.
Thank you.
That's all I gotta say.
Councilman Brannigan?
I just want to let y'all know that I'm that guy on the end with dark hair. Brennan's the skinny guy in the middle with gray hair. And Chad Pitfield is doing a great job, and I want y'all to know that he works his tail off for this city.
Thank you for that follicle clarification. Mayor Zahn?
He just didn't say who the better looking one was, so we'll let y'all figure that out later on. Just to clarify some things, we don't give citations, code enforcement for Christmas decorations left up. I know there was a talk at one time with the council, but I don't think that went anywhere. That's not something we do. So that's one of the comments we made so that the public knows it's not that we're getting by with something that the constituents don't. So we continue to do code enforcement suites, and code enforcement still works while Christmas decorations are up because the rain doesn't stop code enforcement from working. And the only pockets that I'm interested in lining are the accounts of the city of Kenner to make sure that the city of Kenner is whole. So when we're lining pockets, that's what we're lining pockets. That's the money that we're putting there. And I believe each and every one of you all feel the same way because you all obviously don't work for enough for what you have to put up with and what you're doing to get that. So we will continue to look at economic development, and I know he mentioned the dealership. I don't want to go over that, but I mean, the dealership, the mini storage, what else was that day? The move of Old Navy, those are all things to make the Kenner accounts a lot better. So there was a lot of comments made there, and I appreciate the gift-giving thing, but that is something that I felt needed to be done. I appreciate the thank you, but we will continue to move forward with the city of Kenner with economic development.
Seeing no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.